A royal insider has claimed that Prince William is already making plans for the future monarchy and maybe looking to revamp the list of working royals.
King Charles is said to want a slimmed-down monarchy with fewer royals doing more of the work. Harry and Meghan's departure helps achieve that, but it also means there's more pressure on William and Kate to fly the family flag.
Just moments ago, the royal family released an emotional update that has the entire nation holding its breath. Prince William, the future king and beloved face of modern royalty, is now at the center of deeply personal news that's left both. The palace and the public-shaken sources close to Kensington Palace reveal that the update concerns William's health responsibilities and the immense pressure he's been facing behind closed doors. But what exactly happened to the prince, and how? Will this revelation change the royal family's future? The tragedy that stopped Britain, the storm that rolled across England that evening, felt almost unnatural. Angry winds tearing through the countryside, thunder cracking as if the sky itself was splitting apart inside Windsor Castle. The royal family gathered for dinner, unaware that within minutes their world would tilt into chaos. Silverware clinked softly, candles flickered, and the weight of centuries of tradition filled the room. But at 6:47 p.m., everything changed. Somewhere high above the Lake District, a royal helicopter carrying Prince William vanished from radar. A single green blip blinked once, then disappeared. The pilot's last words were drowned in static, cut off by a burst of thunder. Locals later said the sky lit up like fire flames streaking through the clouds before silence claimed the valley once more. In Windsor, the first call came quietly. A nervous aide rushed through the dining hall, pale-faced, whispering to a senior official. Seconds later, the room erupted in confusion. "Your Majesty," came the trembling voice. "We've lost contact with the prince." King Charles froze his fork, clattering onto his plate. The color drained from his face as he steadied himself against the table. His lips moved slowly before the words finally escaped. "Not my son. Not again." The air in the room thickened, time itself holding its breath. Protocol vanished. Aides shouted into phones, couriers ran through corridors and helicopters, scrambled toward Cumbria. By nightfall, search teams were combing the hills near Ulola. In brutal weather, rain poured, lightning flashed, and pieces of twisted metal lay scattered like broken bones. The storm refused to let up, as if nature itself was mourning. Back in Windsor, the palace fell into a different kind of storm. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, received the call in her private sitting room. For a moment, she didn't understand. Then the words sank in, and the sound that escaped her lips silenced the entire wing. It wasn't the poised composure of royalty. It was the raw cry of a wife and mother. The staff stood frozen. One aide dropped her phone and whispered a prayer. Outside the palace walls, the news spread like wildfire. Reporters scrambled for confirmation, networks broke into broadcasts, and by 8:00 p.m., the story had reached every corner of Britain. Crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace, clutching umbrellas and candles, faces lit by worry for a nation still haunted by memories. Of Diana, it was a wound reopened through the downpour. A royal convoy sped toward London. Blue lights flashed against the wet pavement, sirens echoing down empty streets. Inside, Catherine sat motionless, her hands clasped tightly, whispering William's name again and again, as if saying it could hold him to life. When she arrived at the hospital, cameras were already flashing. She stepped out, drenched, her expression unreadable. For that brief second, the world didn't see a princess. They saw a woman. On the brink of heartbreak, inside the emergency ward, chaos reigned. Doctors called out commands, machines beeped in frantic rhythm, and the smell of antiseptic mixed with fear. Catherine was led to his side. Prince William was alive, but barely his. Face was pale beneath the glow of monitors, wires crossing his chest, machines breathing for him. She dropped to her knees beside the bed, gripping his hand tightly. "Stay with me," she whispered through tears, her voice breaking with every syllable. King Charles entered silently moments later, shoulders hunched beneath invisible weight. In his hand, he clutched a small rosary that once belonged to his late mother, the Queen. For all his power, he looked utterly powerless. Hours passed, the storm outside raged on, thunder rolling like the beat of a broken heart. Each flicker on the monitor was a fragile defiance of fate. Catherine refused to leave her gaze fixed on his face, her fingers still entwined with his. Around 200 a.m., quiet murmurs rippled. Among the doctors, something had been found at the crash site, something that didn't fit. The information was passed discreetly to a senior investigator, and whispers began to spread. The wreckage wasn't consistent with a normal crash. Some claimed a piece of equipment didn't belong to the helicopter model. Others hinted at missing communication records from the final moments of flight. The palace refused to comment. Officials urged calm. But by dawn, the theories had already begun, speculation swirling. Like the storm that started it all, was it merely an accident caused by brutal weather? Or was there more beneath the surface? Could this have been something darker tied to whispers of internal royal tension or political unease? No one knew, or perhaps no one was willing to say. As the first light of morning broke through the clouds, Catherine sat in the same chair beside his bed, eyes red but unblinking. William's chest rose and fell weakly under the machines. She whispered his name one last time, barely audible. Outside Windsor remained eerily silent. Flags hung limp against the cold wind, and the palace gates were crowded with flowers and prayers. Britain stood still, holding its breath, waiting for news that might never come. That night, something changed forever. Not just for the royal family, but for the entire nation. In those dark hours between thunder and dawn, the illusion of royal perfection cracked. Behind it was only fear, love, and the haunting question no one dared to ask aloud: what really happens when the royal facade shatters and fear takes the throne? A little girl clutching a hand-drawn sign whispered softly, "Hez waking up." It was as though the whole country had been holding its breath, and now maybe the nightmare was beginning. To lift inside the hospital, Catherine sat by her husband's bedside, her eyes red and swollen from sleepless nights. She hadn't eaten, barely spoken, and refused to leave his side. When the nurse entered the room that morning with a faint smile, Catherine's heart nearly stopped. Then came the words she had prayed for. Terry's movement. Her forehead fell against William's hand as she whispered, "You're still here, you're still mine." But while hope flickered in that hospital room, another storm was brewing behind. Palace doors. Precisely 9:17 a.m., a private meeting was held inside Windsor's most secure conference room. King Charles, Queen Camilla, and Princess Anne sat in tense silence as the lead investigator entered, holding a folder stamped classified level 1. When he spoke, his tone was grave. There was external interference, he said. Someone wanted that helicopter to fall. The words froze the room. Camilla gasped. Anne's hands trembled. Charles went pale, gripping the table for balance. "Are you certain?" he asked quietly. The investigator nodded. Beyond any doubt, sir, a heavy silence followed. Then, for the first time in years, the king's composure shattered. He slammed his fist on the table. "Then find them," he said, his voice shaking with fury. "I don't care how far you have to go. Find them." Camilla reached for his arm, her voice trembling. "And when the world finds out, Charles, what happens?" Then he looked at her, exhaustion etched into his face. "Then they'll know," he whispered, "that even the crown isn't safe." From the shadows, at that same moment across the city, a nurse in the hospital gasped. William's finger twitched. A small movement, almost unnoticeable, but it was enough. Catherine felt it too. A faint pressure against her palm. Her breath caught in her throat. "William," she whispered, tears spilling freely. "If you can hear me, don't stop, doctors." Rushed in monitors flickering to life, one nurse leaned over, reflex movement. She murmured, "His responding." And in that fragile moment, hope returned to Britain. Within hours, the news broke.